Ambassador Jake Morrison stood in front of the massive windows of his office on Nexus Prime. The space station was huge, bigger than most cities back on Earth. It spun slowly in the darkness between the stars, home to the Galactic Council that ruled over 300 different alien species. Jake had been Earth's voice in this place for 12 years. 12 long years of trying to prove that humans deserved to be here. He watched the ships coming and going from the docking bays below, Centauri vessels that looked like golden spears, Kethmer ships that seemed to be made of living crystal, Vex warships covered in weapons and armor. And soon, no more human ships at all. Jake touched the communication device on his desk. The blue light showed he had a direct connection to Commander Lisa Grant, who was overseeing the final evacuation from the human military base on the other side of the station. "Status report, Lisa," Jake said quietly. "Last transport leaves in 30 minutes, Lisa replied. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the sadness in it. "All personnel accounted for. All equipment removed or destroyed. The base will be empty by 0900 hours. Jake nodded, even though she could not see him. "And the research stations?" "Dr. Kevin Walsh finished packing up his lab yesterday. All his research on the Void Plague is coming with us. The medical stations in the Outer Rim completed their evacuation 6 hours ago. The agricultural centers in the core worlds are already gone. The trade posts? Engineer Susan Blake supervised the shutdown of all automated systems. The alien species never learned how to maintain them, so they'll start failing within weeks. Tony Garcia's fusion reactors are on automatic, but without human technicians, they'll need repairs soon." Jake walked to his desk and picked up a small photo. It showed him shaking hands with Council Leader Vexani when humans first joined the Council. Both of them were smiling. Jake had been so hopeful then. He thought humans would be welcomed as equals, as partners in building a better galaxy. He had been wrong. "Jake?" Lisa's voice came through the communicator. "Are you sure about this? We're really leaving everything behind." Jake set the photo down. "We tried, Lisa. For 12 years we tried. We worked harder than any other species. We solved their problems. We fixed their mistakes. We died protecting their worlds, and what did we get for it?" He remembered the council meetings. The way the Centauri would ignore human suggestions until their own plans failed. The way the Kethmer would speak about humans like they were children who needed guidance. The way the Vex would only call for human help when their own soldiers were dying. "They never saw us as equals," Jake continued. "We were just useful tools. When things went well, they took credit. When things went wrong, they blamed us. I'm tired of begging for respect from species that will never give it." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "The council doesn't even know we're leaving." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "They will soon enough." Across the station, the evacuation continued. Captain Ryan Davis led the last group of human military personnel toward the docking bay. They moved quickly but quietly, carrying only what they needed. Behind them, the defense center that had protected the Outer Rim for 5 years stood empty. Ryan had coordinated the defense of 47 different worlds. His tactical plans had saved millions of lives. His early warning systems had stopped 3 major pirate invasions. The aliens had praised his work in public, but in private, they questioned every decision he made. "Sir?" One of his lieutenants, a young woman named Amy Stone, walked beside him. "What about the defense protocols?" "The aliens don't know how to run the systems." "Not our problem anymore," Ryan replied. "We offered to train their people dozens of times. They always said they would learn later. Later never came." In the medical wing, Dr. Kevin Walsh sealed the last container of his research. The Void Plague was spreading through the galaxy like a disease. It turned healthy planets into dead rocks in a matter of months. Kevin had been working on a cure for 3 years. He was close to a breakthrough. The council had demanded regular reports on his progress. They had insisted on reviewing all his research, but they never provided the resources he asked for. They never gave him the support he needed. They treated him like a servant, not a scientist. Dr. Walsh? His assistant, a young man named Paul Carter, helped him carry the research containers. Shouldn't we leave copies of the research? In case something happens to us? Kevin shook his head. They had their chance to support this work. They chose to criticize instead. Now they can find their own cure. The evacuation was so well planned that most aliens on the station did not notice it happening. Humans had always been quiet and efficient. They did their jobs without making noise. They solved problems without seeking attention. Even leaving. They did it the same way engineer Susan Blake finished shutting down the last of the automated systems she had designed. These systems managed trade routes, coordinated supply shipments, and maintained the complex networks that kept galactic civilization running. She had built them to be simple and reliable, but they still needed regular maintenance. The backup protocols are in place, she told her team. The systems will run for about a month before they start having problems. Maybe 2 months if they're lucky. And if they try to fix them without us? Asked her chief technician, a woman named Carol Davis. Susan shrugged. They never bothered to learn how these systems work. They just expected us to maintain them forever. Jake. Morrison made his final walk through the human section of Nexus Prime. The corridors were empty now. The offices were clean and bare. 12 years of human presence was being erased as if it had never existed. He stopped at the council chambers. Tomorrow, the council would meet to discuss the Void Plague crisis. They would expect Dr. Walsh to present his latest findings. They would want Captain Davis to explain his new defense strategies. They would need Engineer Blake to fix the problems with the trade networks, but the human seats would be empty. Jake placed a small data chip on his desk. It contained one final message. From humanity to the Galactic Council. He had thought about what to say for weeks. In the end, he kept it simple. We came in peace. We served with honor. We asked only for respect. We have been tolerated, not welcomed. We have been used, not valued. We will find our own path among the stars. Jake turned off the lights in his office and walked toward the docking bay. Commander Lisa Grant was waiting for him at the last transport ship. Behind them, Nexus Prime continued its slow rotation in the darkness. Ready? Lisa asked. Jake looked back one last time at the station that had been his home for 12 years. Ready. The transport ship pulled away from the docking bay and disappeared. Into the stars? Behind them, the galaxy continued as if nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The aliens just did not know it yet. Within hours, every human in council space was gone. The evacuation had been perfect. Not a single human remained in the territories controlled by the Galactic Council. They had left as quietly as they had worked. Without fanfare or explanation, the galaxy would soon learn what it meant to exist without the humans who had held it together. Council leader Thexani of the Zentari entered the great chamber of Nexus Prime with his usual confidence. His golden skin gleamed under the lights, and his tall frame commanded respect from the hundreds of alien representatives already seated. Today would be important. The Void Plague was spreading faster than ever, and they needed solutions. Thexani looked toward the human section and stopped. The seats were empty. All 12 human representatives were missing. Strange, but not alarming. Humans were always punctual, sometimes annoyingly so. Perhaps they were dealing with some minor crisis. Where are the humans? Asked Elder Vostrin of the Kethmore. His ancient voice carried across the chamber like wind through crystal caves. The Kethmore had lived for thousands of years, and Vostrin was old even by their standards. Probably fixing something, replied Commander Karthok of the Vex Coalition. His armored form shifted in his seat, weapons visible on his belt. They are always busy with their little projects. Thexani activated the chamber's communication. System. Attention human delegation. The council session is beginning. Please report to your assigned positions. Silence. Computer, locate Ambassador Jake Morrison. The station's artificial intelligence responded in its calm voice. Ambassador Morrison is not currently on Nexus Prime. What about Commander Lisa Grant? Commander Grant is not currently on Nexus Prime, Dr. Kevin Walsh. Dr. Walsh is not currently on Nexus Prime. Thexani felt a small flutter of concern but pushed it aside. Computer, locate any human personnel on Nexus Prime. No human personnel are currently on Nexus Prime. The chamber fell silent. 300 alien representatives stared at the empty human section. This had never happened before. In 12 years of council membership, humans had never missed a session. Perhaps they are having some kind of technical difficulty, suggested diplomat Zixara of the hegemony. Her multiple eyes blinked in confusion. Their ships might be delayed. Or maybe they finally realized this council is above their level, said General Curtith of the Dominion. His reptilian features showed obvious satisfaction. Humans always tried too hard to prove themselves worthy. The Ixani decided to proceed with the session. They had important business to discuss, and humans were just one species among many. The council had existed for thousands of years before humans arrived. It would continue without them. We will begin without the human delegation, the Ixani announced. First item on our agenda is the void plague situation. Dr. Walsh was supposed to present his latest findings. Elder Vostron raised one crystalline hand. I have reviewed the previous reports. The human approach seemed overly complicated. Perhaps we should consider more traditional methods. Traditional methods have failed, pointed out Science Minister Veltar of the Republic. The void plague has resisted every cure we have tried. Dr. Walsh's research was our best hope. Was it really? General Curtith leaned forward. Or did we just assume it was because humans work so hard? Working hard does not mean working smart, the Ixani nodded. The general makes a valid point. We have brilliant scientists from dozens of species. Surely we can solve this problem ourselves. Across the chamber, the aliens began to murmur among themselves. Many had grown comfortable letting humans handle the difficult problems. It was convenient. Humans seemed to enjoy the work, and they rarely asked for anything in return except recognition. What about the defense systems in the Outer Rim? Asked Defense Coordinator Rexvan of the Alliance. Captain Davis was managing those operations. Commander. Karthok waved a dismissive hand. Standard military tactics? Any competent officer can handle pirate raids. The trade networks? Simple logistics? We managed trade for centuries before humans arrived. The agricultural distribution systems? Basic. Mathematics, input, output, transportation routes. As the session continued, the aliens convinced themselves that human contributions had been overrated. Yes, humans worked hard, but hard work was not the same as intelligence. Yes, humans solved problems, but many problems solved themselves given time. I think we have been too dependent on human assistance, declared Elder Vostron. Perhaps their absence is a blessing in disguise. It forces us to remember our own capabilities. Agreed, said the Ixani. The Zentari have always been skilled administrators. We can easily manage the systems humans maintained. The Kethmer possess wisdom accumulated over millennia, added Vostron. Our understanding of complex systems far exceeds human knowledge. The Vex Coalition has military experience dating back to the First Galactic War, stated Commander Karthok. We know how to protect our territory. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens distributed human responsibilities among themselves. The Zentari would take over administrative duties. The Kethmar would handle research and development. The Vex would manage security and defense. Other species would cover the remaining tasks. It all seemed so logical, so organized, so simple. One question remains, said Diplomat Zixara. Where exactly are the humans? Did they send word about their absence? The Ixani checked his communication. Logs. No messages received. Computer, when did human personnel last leave Nexus Prime? The last human transport departed at 0900 hours yesterday. All human personnel left at the same time? Elder Vostron's ancient features showed confusion. That seems unusual. Perhaps they had a medical emergency, suggested Science Minister. Veltar, some kind of species-wide illness? Or a natural disaster on Earth, added General Curtith. Their homeworld might need assistance. Should we send aid? Asked Diplomat Zixara. The Ixani considered this. If they needed help, they would have asked. Humans always ask for help when they need it. This was not true, and some of the older council members knew it. Humans rarely asked for anything. They solved their own problems and helped others solve theirs, but admitting this would suggest that humans were more capable than the aliens wanted to believe. I am sure they will return soon, Vixani decided. In the meantime, we proceed with our new assignments. The session ended with the aliens feeling confident about their decision. They had divided up human responsibilities and convinced themselves that the work would be easy. After all, if humans could do it, how difficult could it be? As the council members left the chamber, none of them noticed the small problems already beginning to appear. The automated systems managing trade routes had started showing minor errors. The fusion reactors powering 3 different worlds were running slightly above normal temperatures. The early warning sensors protecting the outer rim had missed too. Pirate scout ships, small problems. Nothing that could not be fixed easily, or so they thought. In the Zentari Administrative Center, clerks stared at screens full of data they did not understand. The humans had left detailed instructions, but the instructions assumed knowledge that the clerks did not possess. Words like recursive algorithms and predictive modeling might as well have been written in an alien language. This cannot be that complicated, muttered Administrator Gextel. It is just moving supplies from one place to another. He pressed a series of buttons, trying to match the pattern he had seen humans use. The screen flashed red. An error message appeared. Critical path analysis failed. Rerouting required. What does that mean? Asked his assistant. I am sure it is nothing important, Gextel replied, though he did not sound sure at all. In the Kethmore research facilities, scientists gathered around Dr. Walsh's abandoned equipment. The human had left behind detailed notes, but his research involved concepts that the Kethmore found difficult to grasp. Where they sought elegant, theoretical solutions, Walsh had used practical, experimental approaches. His methodology is so crude, observed research leader Mixandra. Surely we can improve upon it. The humans always rush to practical applications, agreed her colleague. We will take time to understand the theoretical foundations first. How long will that take? Asked a junior researcher. Proper research cannot be rushed, Mixandra replied. Perhaps a year or 2. Meanwhile, the void plague continued to spread. In the Vex Military Command Center, officers studied Captain Davis's tactical plans. The human had developed complex strategies that coordinated multiple species, took advantage of each race's strengths, and compensated for their weaknesses. To the Vex, it looked unnecessarily complicated. Human tactics are too cautious, declared Colonel Vexler. We prefer direct action. But his plans have been very successful, pointed out a younger officer. Success. Through cowardice, Vexler replied. Real warriors face their enemies directly. The first day after the human departure ended with the aliens feeling satisfied. They had proven that the Council could function without human assistance. The galaxy would continue as it always had. They were wrong, but they would not realize. If for several more days. By then, it would be too late to fix their mistakes. 3 weeks after the humans disappeared, the first real problem started. Administrator Gextel of the Zentari stared at his computer screen in growing panic. The trade route management system had been showing small errors for days, but now, entire supply chains were breaking down. Food shipments meant for the mining colonies in the Kepler system had somehow been sent to the resort worlds near Vega. Medical supplies desperately needed on plague-affected planets were sitting in warehouses on worlds that had no use for them. This cannot be happening, he muttered, pressing buttons frantically. Every action he took seemed to make things worse. The screen kept flashing red warnings that he did not understand. His assistant, a young Zentari named Plexari, ran into the office. Sir, we have 17 different worlds reporting supply shortages. The agricultural colonies are running out of farming equipment. The manufacturing centers do not have raw materials. The medical stations are demanding to know where their supplies are. Gextel wiped sweat from his golden forehead. Contact the human engineers. They will know how to fix this. Sir, the humans are gone, remember? Then find someone who understands these systems. Plexari looked helpless. We tried. The Kethmar scientists say the system is too primitive for them to study. The Vex engineers say it is not their area of expertise. The hegemony technicians say they are too busy with their own projects. On the other side of the galaxy, research leader Mixandra of the Kethmar faced her own crisis. The Void Plague had spread to 3 more star systems while she and her team spent weeks trying to understand Dr. Walsh's research methods. His approach makes no sense, she complained to her research team. He tested hundreds of different compounds without understanding the theoretical basis for why they might work. It is completely unscientific. But some of his tests were showing promising results, pointed out her assistant, a young Kethmar named Velthes. Should we not continue those experiments? We need to understand the theory first, Mixandra insisted. Proper research requires careful analysis of the underlying principles. A communication alert interrupted their discussion. The image of Governor Thalek appeared on the screen, his face showing clear desperation. Research leader Mixandra, he said urgently. The Void Plague has reached the Altair colonies. 3 planets are already showing signs of infection. We need Dr. Walsh's containment protocols immediately. We are working on understanding his methods, Mixandra replied. But we need more time to develop a proper theoretical framework. Time? Governor Thalek's voice rose. The plague turns entire worlds into dead rock in months. We do not have time for theoretical frameworks. Science cannot be rushed, Mixandra said firmly. The human approach was too hasty. We will develop a better solution. The communication ended, leaving the Kethmar scientists in uncomfortable silence. Through the laboratory windows, they could see the lights of distant stars. Some of those lights were worlds where millions of people lived and worked. And the Void Plague was spreading toward them. In the Vex Military Command Center, Colonel Vexler discovered that his direct approach to warfare was not working as well as he had expected. Without Captain Davis's careful coordination, the defense of the Outer Rim was falling apart. Report, he barked at his communications officer. Sir, we have lost contact with the mining colony on Proxima 7. Long-range sensors show signs of pirate attack. The colony's distress beacon went silent. 6 hours ago. Vexler slammed his fist on the command table. Where were our patrol ships? The patrol schedule was disrupted when we changed the human tactical plans. Ship Beta 7 was supposed to be in that sector, but it was reassigned to support the convoy escort mission. And the early warning sensors? They have been showing false readings for days. The technicians say they cannot figure out how to calibrate them properly. This was the 3rd colony lost to pirates in 2 weeks. Under Captain Davis's coordination, the Outer Rim defenses had protected 47 worlds for 5 years without losing a single one. Now they were losing worlds faster than Vexler could count. Send reinforcements to the Proxima system, he ordered. Sir, our ships are already spread too thin. The convoy escort missions are using most of our available vessels. Then cancel some of the escort missions. Which ones, sir? Vexler stared at the tactical display. Red dots marked pirate attacks, yellow dots showed convoy routes, and blue dots indicated patrol zones. The human captain had somehow managed to coordinate all of this perfectly. To Vexler, it looked like an impossible puzzle. And just send whatever ships we can spare, he said finally. Back on Nexus Prime, the problems were becoming too obvious to ignore. The station's life support systems were running at only 60% efficiency. The artificial gravity fluctuated randomly. The docking bay computers kept scheduling ships to land in bays that were already occupied. Council leader Thexani called an emergency meeting. The great chamber was filled with worried alien representatives, all talking at once about the growing crisis. The trade networks are completely broken, reported Trade Minister Cuseville of the Republic. Food shipments are missing, medical supplies are lost, and industrial production is grinding to a halt. The Void Plague research has made no progress, added Science Minister Veltar. If anything, we seem to be moving backward. 17 colonies have been lost to pirate attacks, Commander Karthok admitted reluctantly. Our defense networks are not functioning properly. The fusion reactors on 8 different worlds are showing dangerous temperature increases, said Chief Engineer Mordick of the Alliance. We do not know how to fix them. Elder Vostren raised his crystalline hand. For silence. These problems are temporary. We simply need time to adapt to our new responsibilities. Time? Vixania's voice was sharp with frustration. Worlds are dying. People are starving. Pirates are attacking our colonies. How much time do we need? The humans had 12 years to learn these systems, Vostern replied calmly. We have had 3 weeks, but they built these systems, protested Science Minister Veltar. They designed them. They knew how they worked, and now we must learn, Vostern said firmly. It is a matter of dedication and intelligence. Diplomat Zixara's multiple eyes blinked nervously. Perhaps we should try to contact the humans. Ask them to return and help us fix these problems. The chamber fell silent. The idea of admitting they needed human help was embarrassing to species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Where would we contact them? Asked General Curtis. We do not even know where they went. They must have left some kind of forwarding address, suggested Trade Minister Cuseville. Vexani checked his communication logs again. No forwarding address. No emergency contact information. No indication of where they might have gone. That is impossible, said Commander Karthok. No species just disappears completely. Apparently humans do, Vexani replied grimly. The meeting continued for hours, but no real solutions emerged. The aliens were discovering that the systems humans had built were far more complex than they had appeared. Every solution they tried created new problems. Every fix they attempted broke something else. In the weeks that followed, the situation continued to deteriorate. The void plague spread to 12 more star systems. 23 colonies fell to pirate attacks. The trade networks collapsed completely, leaving entire worlds without food or medical supplies. Engineer Susan Blake's automated systems began failing one by one. The aliens tried to repair them, but without understanding the underlying principles. Their efforts only made things worse. Power grids failed. Communication networks went down. Transportation systems stopped working. Dr. Kevin Walsh's research notes remained untranslated. The aliens had computers that could translate human languages, but they could not translate human ways of thinking. Walsh's practical, experimental approach was completely alien to species that preferred theoretical analysis. Captain Ryan Davis's tactical plans gathered dust in the military archives. The Vex commanders had thrown them away, preferring their own direct approach to warfare. Now they wished they had kept them, but it was too late. The plans had been deleted from the computer systems. By the end of the first month, the galaxy was in chaos. The proud civilizations that had dismissed human contributions were learning the hard way that competence was not the same as intelligence, and that working hard was not the same as working smart. But the hardest lesson was yet to come. The aliens were about to discover that some knowledge could not be replaced once it was lost, and humanity was nowhere to be found. 2 months after the humans vanished, Council Leader Vexani made a decision that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. He was going to swallow his pride and ask the humans to come back. The galaxy was falling apart. The void plague had consumed 27 star systems. 62 colonies had fallen to pirates. The trade networks had collapsed so completely that entire worlds were running out of food. The fusion reactors that powered the core worlds were overheating, and nobody knew how to fix them. Prepare my personal ship, Vexani ordered his aide. I'm going to Earth, sir? Plexari looked confused. Are you sure that is wise? The Council has never sent a leader to visit the humans on their homeworld. The Council has never needed to beg for help before, Vexani replied grimly. The journey to Earth took 3 days. Vexani spent the time practicing what he would say to Ambassador Morrison. He would apologize for the Council's arrogance. He would offer humans better representation, more respect, higher positions. He would promise anything they wanted if they would just come back. But when his ship arrived at the Sol system, Vexani found something that made his blood Run cold. Earth was dark. The blue and green planet that had been home to billions of humans was completely lifeless. No lights showed on the night side. No ships moved in orbit. No communication signals came from the surface. "Scan the planet," Vexani ordered his pilot. The results were impossible to believe. No human life signs, no active power sources. Signs of civilization at all. Cities that had housed millions of people were completely empty. The orbital stations that had protected Earth were gone, leaving only empty space. "This cannot be right," Vexani whispered. "Scan again." The second scan showed the same results. Earth was abandoned, not destroyed, not damaged, just empty. As if humanity had simply packed up and left. "Sir," his pilot said nervously, "I am detecting something." On the surface of Earth, in what had once been the capital city, a single building was still powered. It was small, barely visible from orbit, but it was the only sign of activity on the entire planet. Vexani's ship landed in the empty streets of what had once been a busy city. The silence was overwhelming. Cars sat abandoned in the streets. Buildings stood empty with their windows dark. It was like walking through a graveyard. Inside the powered building, Vexani found a single room with a computer terminal. The screen showed a simple message for the Galactic Council. He activated the terminal and Ambassador Jake Morrison's face appeared on the screen. It was a recording clearly made before the humans left. "If you are watching this," Morrison said, "then you have come looking for us. You have realized that the galaxy cannot function without human expertise. You have discovered that competence cannot be replaced by arrogance." Vexani found himself leaning forward, hanging on every word. "You're probably wondering where we went," Morrison continued. "You are probably hoping we will come back and fix the problems you cannot solve. You're probably planning to offer us better terms, more respect, higher positions in the council." The recorded Morrison paused and his expression grew sad. "But we are not coming back. Not to the galaxy that used us without respecting us. Not to the council that treated us like servants instead of partners. We have found a new home among the stars, far from the worlds that never appreciated what we offered." The recording continued for several more minutes. Morrison explained that humanity had developed new technologies during their years in the galaxy. They had learned to work with other species, but they had also learned to recognize when that cooperation was one-sided. "We do not hate you," Morrison said near the end. "We simply refuse to be taken for granted anymore. The galaxy will survive without us, or it will not. That choice is yours now." The recording ended, leaving Vexani alone in the dark room. He tried to access other files on the computer, but found nothing. The humans had left no clues about where they had gone. No forwarding address. No emergency contact information. Nothing. Over the following weeks, Vexani sent search teams to every human colony in known space. They found the same thing everywhere: empty worlds, abandoned cities. No signs of where the humans had gone. The human colony on New Geneva was deserted. The research stations in the Centauri system were empty. The mining operations in the asteroid belt had been shut down and cleared out. Even the small trading posts on the edge of known space were abandoned. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. "How is this possible?" Elder Vostron asked during an emergency council session. "No species can just disappear completely." "Apparently humans can," replied Science Minister Veltar. "They must have had technology we never knew about." "What kind of technology?" demanded General Curtis. "I do not know. Some kind of advanced transportation system. Maybe they can move entire populations instantly across vast distances." Commander Karthok shook his head. "That is impossible." "We would have detected such technology, would we?" asked Diplomat Zixara. "We thought we understood human capabilities. We thought they were just good at organizing and working hard. We never imagined they might have secrets." The truth was even more disturbing than the aliens realized. During their 12 years in the galaxy, humans had quietly developed technologies that surpassed anything the Council possessed. They had learned to work with quantum fields in ways that made faster-than-light travel seem primitive. They had mastered energy manipulation that made fusion reactors look like campfires, but they had kept these advances secret. They had continued to use older, simpler technologies when working with the Council. They had let the aliens believe that human capabilities were limited and well understood now. Those advanced technologies had allowed humanity to relocate their entire civilization to a new region of space, far beyond the reach of the Galactic Council. They had found new worlds to colonize, new species to work with, new challenges to face, species that respected them, species that valued their contributions, species that treated them as partners, not servants, back in Council space. The search for humanity continued. The Ixani authorized the largest exploration mission in galactic history. Thousands of ships spread out across the galaxy, searching for any sign of human presence. They found nothing. The humans had covered their tracks perfectly. They had left no clues, no traces, no hints about their destination. They had simply vanished as completely as if they had never existed. We could offer them anything, the Ixani said during another emergency session. Full membership in the Council leadership. Control over their own sectors, whatever they want. How do we make offers to people we cannot find? Asked Trade Minister. Cuseville, we keep searching, the Ixani replied. We expand the search to neighboring galaxies if necessary. And meanwhile, our own galaxy continues to fall apart, pointed out Chief Engineer Mordick. The Void Plague has consumed 43 star systems. We have lost over 100 colonies to pirates. The trade networks are completely broken. The fusion reactors are starting to fail, added another engineer. When they go critical, entire. Star systems will be uninhabitable. Elder Vostrin raised his crystalline hand. Perhaps we should focus on solving these problems ourselves instead of looking for the humans. With what expertise? Demanded Science Minister Veltar. Our best scientists cannot understand human research methods. Our best engineers cannot repair human-designed systems. Our best military officers cannot coordinate multi-species defense networks. Then we learn, Vostrin said firmly. How long will that take? Asked the Ixani. Years? Decades? How many worlds will die while we are learning? The chamber fell silent. The aliens were beginning to understand the magnitude of their mistake. They had dismissed human contributions as simple manual labor. They had assumed that intelligence was more important than competence, that theory was more valuable than practice. They had been wrong. The humans had not just been doing the work nobody else wanted to do. They had been holding the galaxy together, with skills and knowledge that took lifetimes to develop. Skills that could not be replaced by pressing a few buttons or reading a few manuals, and now those skills were gone. Along with the people who possessed them, the search for humanity continued, but with each passing day it became more obvious that the humans did not want to be found. They had made their choice and they were not coming back. The galaxy would have to learn to survive without them, or it would not survive at all. 6 months after the humans vanished, the Void Plague reached the core worlds. Elder Vostrin stood on the observation deck of the Kethmer homeworld, watching his ancient civilization die. The crystal cities that had stood for 10,000 years were turning black. The living towers that had grown from the planet's core were withering like dying plants. The plague moved through everything, turning beauty into death. How long do we have? He asked research leader Mixandra. 3 weeks, maybe 4, she replied. Her voice was hollow with defeat. The plague spreads faster on worlds with complex ecosystems. Our homeworld has the most complex ecosystem in known space. And your research? Mixandra looked down at her hands. We understand the theoretical basis of the plague now. It disrupts the quantum fields that hold matter together. But understanding it and stopping it are different things. What about Dr. Walsh's research, his practical methods? We tried to continue his experiments, but Duxandra trailed off. His approach was too alien to us. He tested thousands of compounds without proper theoretical framework. We do not think like that, Vostrin nodded sadly. The Kethmer had always prided themselves on their careful, methodical approach to science. They believed in understanding the deep principles before attempting practical applications. It had served them well for millennia, but Dr. Walsh had worked differently. He had tried everything, tested everything, failed at most things, but learned from every failure. His messy, chaotic methods had been producing results while the Kethmar were still debating theory. Now it was too late to change their approach. On the other side of the galaxy, the Zentari homeworld was facing its own crisis. The fusion reactors that powered their great cities had begun to fail. One by one, the massive machines that engineer Tony Garcia had designed were overheating beyond repair. Administrator Gextel stood in the main reactor control room, watching helplessly as the temperature readings climbed into the red zone. Around him, the best Zentari engineers worked frantically at control panels they barely understood. "Can we shut it down safely?" he asked Chief Engineer Porthak. "We do not know how," Porthak admitted. "The human designs are too complex. Every system connects to every other system. If we shut down the wrong component, the entire reactor could go critical. And if we do nothing, the reactor will overheat and explode anyway. The blast will destroy half the capital city." Gextel closed his eyes. 2 billion Zentari lived in the capital city. If they evacuated now, they might save most of them. But where would they go? The other cities on the planet were having the same reactor problems. "Begin the evacuation," he ordered. "All citizens within 50 kilometers of the reactor must leave immediately." "Sir, that is 12 million people." "We do not have enough transport ships." "Then use every ship we have." "Military vessels, cargo haulers, private yachts, everything that can fly?" As the evacuation began, Gextel thought about Engineer Garcia. The human had been so patient, so willing to explain his designs to anyone who asked. But the Zentari had been too proud to listen. They had assumed that their advanced mathematics would be enough to understand his work. They had been wrong. Garcia's designs were not just mathematical formulas. They were the result of years of practical experience, of learning from failures, of understanding how theory worked in the real world. Knowledge that died with him when he left the galaxy. In the outer rim, the situation was even worse. Without Captain Ryan Davis's coordination, the defense networks had collapsed completely. Pirates now controlled entire sectors of space. Hundreds of colonies had been abandoned as their populations fled to safer regions. Colonel Vexler S. direct military approach had failed catastrophically. The Vex Coalition's mighty warships were designed for large-scale battles between organized fleets. They were useless against the hit-and-run tactics that pirates preferred. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we have lost contact with the Rigel sector. Long-range scans show at least 20 pirate ships operating in that area." "How many of our ships are available to respond?" Vexler asked. 12, sir. "But they are already assigned to protect the shipping lanes near Vega." "Then reassign them." "Sir, if we move those ships, the Vega lanes will be undefended. The pirates will attack the moment we leave." Vexler stared at the tactical display. Red dots marked pirate positions across hundreds of star systems. Blue dots showed his own ships, spread impossibly thin across vast distances. There were simply not enough ships to defend everything. Captain Davis had somehow managed this same situation with fewer ships and resources. His complex strategies had kept the pirates contained for 5 years. But those strategies required coordination between multiple species, each contributing their unique strengths. The Vex preferred to work alone. They trusted only their own ships, their own commanders, their own methods. This approach had served them well in conventional warfare, but it was useless against the current crisis. "Sir," the communications officer said urgently, "emergency transmission from the Centauri colonies? They are under attack by a large pirate fleet." "How large?" 40 ships, sir. "The colonies are requesting immediate assistance." Vexler looked at his display again. His nearest ships were 3 days away from Centauri. By the time they arrived, the colonies would be gone. "Send what we can," he ordered. And may the ancestors forgive us. Back on Nexus Prima, Council Leader Thexani received reports of disaster from across the galaxy. The Kethmar homeworld was dying from the Void Plague. The Zentari capital was being evacuated as fusion reactors failed. The Outer Rim colonies were falling to pirates faster than anyone could count. The trade networks had collapsed so completely that entire sectors were cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Worlds that depended on food imports were starving. Planets that needed medical supplies were watching their populations die from treatable diseases. How many worlds have we lost? Vixani asked during the daily crisis meeting. 87 to the Void Plague, reported Science Minister Veltar. 143 to pirates. 32 to reactor failures, 19 to supply shortages. And the total population? We estimate ... 50 billion dead. The chamber fell silent. 50 billion lives lost in 6 months. The greatest catastrophe in galactic history. The hegemony is requesting permission to withdraw from the Outer Rim, reported diplomat Zixara. They cannot protect their colonies anymore. The Republic wants to recall all their ships to defend their core worlds, added Trade Minister Cuseville. The Alliance is considering closing their borders to refugees, said another representative. The Ixani listened to the reports with growing despair. The Galactic Council that had ruled space for thousands of years was falling apart. Species that had worked together for millennia were now abandoning each other to save themselves. We need to try one more time to contact the humans, suggested Elder Vostron. His crystalline body was dimmer than usual, weakened by the plague affecting his homeworld. We have tried everything, Vixani replied. Long-range communications, exploration missions, even messages broadcast on all frequencies. They are not responding. Perhaps they cannot hear us. Perhaps they are too far away. Or perhaps they simply do not care, said General Curtis bitterly. Why should they help the galaxy that rejected them? Because they are human, Lustrin said quietly. Because they care about life, even when that life belongs to people who wrong them? You have too much faith in human forgiveness, Curtis replied. We used them, dismissed them, treated them like servants. Why would they save us now? The meeting ended without solutions. The council members returned to their dying worlds to watch their civilizations collapse. The proud species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years were learning that pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. In the weeks that followed, the collapse accelerated. The Void Plague consumed the Kethmar homeworld completely, leaving behind a dead rock floating in space. Reactor failures destroyed 3 Zentari cities, killing millions. The pirate fleets grew bolder, attacking targets closer and closer to the core worlds. The galaxy that had once been home to trillions of beings was becoming a graveyard. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity watched from their new home. Safe and free from the chaos they had once worked so hard to prevent, they had given the galaxy 12 years of their best efforts. They had saved countless lives, solved impossible problems, and asked for nothing but respect in return. Now the galaxy was learning the true cost of their departure. 5 years after the humans departed, Elder Vostron sat alone in a small shelter on what had once been the greatest space station in the galaxy. Nexus Prime was dying around him, its corridors dark and empty, its systems failing one by one. He was the last member of the Galactic Council still alive. The Kethmar homeworld was gone, consumed by the Void Plague that had spread through 60% of known space. The Zentari capital had been destroyed when their fusion reactors exploded. The Vex coalition had collapsed into warring factions that fought each other while pirates picked apart their territories. Most of the galaxy's great civilizations were extinct. The few survivors lived in scattered groups on remote worlds, struggling to maintain basic technology without the knowledge that humans had provided. Vostron activated a recording device with trembling hands. His crystalline body was dim and cracked, aged beyond measure by the weight of what he had witnessed. My name is Elder Vostron of the Kethmar, he said slowly. I am recording this message for whoever might find it someday. Perhaps the humans, if they ever return to this part of space. Perhaps some other species that will learn from our mistakes. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Through the shelter's small window, he could see the wreckage of ships that had once carried representatives from hundreds of worlds. Now they floated in space like monuments to galactic failure. We called ourselves advanced civilizations, Vostrin continued. We had technology that could move mountains. We had weapons that could destroy planets. We had knowledge that stretched back thousands of years. We thought this made us superior. A memory flashed through his mind, Ambassador Jake Morrison standing before the council, quietly presenting another solution to another crisis while the alien representatives barely listened. But we were wrong. Advancement is not about how powerful your weapons are or how old your civilization is. Advancement is about how well you work together, how effectively you solve problems, how much you care about the well-being of others. Vostrin's voice grew stronger as he spoke. The humans understood this. They were younger than us, smaller than us, weaker than us in many ways, but they had something we lacked. They had the ability to see problems clearly and work together to fix them. He thought about Dr. Kevin Walsh, patiently testing compound after compound while the Kethmer scientists debated theory. About engineer Susan Blake, designing systems that worked perfectly for years while alien engineers criticized their simplicity. About Captain Ryan Davis, coordinating the defense of dozens of worlds while military commanders complained about his cautious methods. We thought intelligence was more important than competence, Vostrin said. We thought understanding theory was more valuable than practical experience. We thought our long histories made us wiser than a species that had only recently reached the stars. Another pause. In the distance, he could hear the sound of failing life support systems. Soon, even this small shelter would be uninhabitable. The humans never claimed to be the smartest species in the galaxy. They never boasted about their achievements. They simply did the work that needed to be done. They solved the problems that needed to be solved. They fixed the things that needed to be fixed. Vostrin remembered the trade networks that had fed billions, the defense systems that had protected hundreds of worlds, the research that had promised to cure diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. All of it created and maintained by humans who asked for nothing more than respect. And we gave them nothing, he said, his voice breaking. We used their skills without acknowledging their value. We took credit for their successes and blamed them for any failures. We treated them like servants when they should have been our teachers. He thought about Council Leader Thexani, so confident that the Zentari could handle administrative duties better than humans. About Research Leader Mixandra, convinced that Kethmer theoretical knowledge was superior to human practical methods. About Colonel Vexler, certain that direct military action was more effective than human coordination, all of them dead now. All of their civilizations reduced to ash and memory. The humans tried to warn us, Vostrin continued. Not with words, but with their actions. Every time we dismissed their suggestions, every time we ignored their expertise, every time we treated them as inferior, they pulled back a little more. We should have seen the signs. He remembered Ambassador Morrison's final recording, left behind on Earth, the sadness in the human's voice when he spoke about leaving. They had not departed in anger, but in resignation. They had given up hope that the galaxy would ever truly accept them. When they left, we thought we could replace them easily. We thought their work was simple, their methods primitive, their contributions minor. We learned too late that there is nothing simple about competence. Nothing primitive about practical knowledge. Nothing minor about the ability to make things work. Through the window, Vostrin could see the dead worlds in the distance. Planets that had once housed billions of beings were now dark and lifeless. The void plague had consumed some. Reactor failures had destroyed others. War and chaos had claimed the rest. The galaxy burned without them, he said simply. Not because they were the only intelligent species, but because they were the only species that knew how to make intelligence useful. They were the bridge between theory and practice, between knowledge and action, between what we knew and what we could do. Vostrin's recorder beeped, indicating that power was running low. Like everything else on Nexus Prime, it was breaking down without human maintenance. "If the humans ever hear this message," he said urgently, "I want them to know that some of us understood our mistake. Not all of us were too proud to learn. Some of us realized before the end what we had lost when we lost them." He thought about the final council session, when the few surviving representatives had voted to send one last message to humanity, a simple apology, an acknowledgement of their error, a plea for forgiveness. The message had been broadcast on all frequencies for months, but no response had ever come. The humans were either too far away to hear it, or they had chosen not to answer. "We hope that wherever you are now, you have found the respect and partnership that we failed to give you. We hope you have built something better than what we destroyed. We hope you have learned from our failures to create a galaxy where competence is valued over arrogance, where cooperation is prized over dominance." The recorder's power indicator flashed red. Only minutes of recording time remained. "Most of all," Vostrin said, his voice growing faint, "we hope that someday, when you meet other species like us, you will be wiser than we were. You will recognize worth when you see it. You will value the people who do the work that holds civilization together. You will give respect where respect is due." The shelter's life support systems gave a warning chime. The air was growing thin, the temperature dropping. Soon, this conversation would end forever. The galaxy learned too late that respect cannot be taken, only given, Vostrin said with his final breath. And humanity had finally stopped giving it to those who would not return it. The recording device powered down as the last member of the Galactic Council closed his eyes for the final time. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, on a green world orbiting a young star, Captain Mike Turner of the USS Liberty reviewed the long-range sensor reports. The instruments showed the remains of the civilization they had once served. Dead worlds, empty space. Silence where once there had been the chatter of 1,000 different species. "Any regrets?" asked his first officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. Mike looked at the display for a long moment. "For the people who died?" "Yes, for the civilizations that fell." "Yes, for the knowledge that was lost." "Absolutely." "And for leaving?" Mike shook his head. "No, we gave them everything we had for 12 years. Our best minds, our hardest work, our most innovative solutions. In return, we were tolerated, not welcomed, used, not valued." Sarah nodded. Around them, the ship hummed with the quiet efficiency that marked all human technology. Clean, simple, and reliable. Just like the people who built it. "The new colonies are thriving," she reported. "Trade agreements with the Andorians are proceeding. Well, the Tausetians have requested human engineers to help design their infrastructure. Species that appreciate competence instead of fearing it," Mike observed. "Species that offer partnership instead of demanding servitude." Mike looked out at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere in that direction lay humanity's new future. New worlds to explore, new friends to make, new challenges to face with the same quiet determination that had always been their strength. Behind them, the old galaxy continued its slide into darkness, a monument to the price of arrogance and a reminder that respect, once lost, could never be reclaimed. The humans had found their new path among the stars, and they had no intention of looking back.